The NEX6 and the NEX7 were both class-leading cameras when they first came out. However, they're both about 10 years old now. So is there still a difference between these two cameras? And if so, which one's better for your money in 2021? So I have reviews of both of these cameras on my channel already, which I'm going to link down in the description below. Both of those videos go really in depth on each one of these cameras and talk about all the specs, features, show a bunch of photo and video examples. But this video is basically going to be a quick comparison between these two. You know, if you don't have time to look through a bunch of reviews, I'm going to talk about the main differences, the main similarities, and the main specs of these cameras to help you decide which one you should buy if you're looking to pick one of these up. So like I said, these are both really old cameras. The NEX6 was released in 2013 and the NEX7 in 2011. So they're both right around that 10-year-old point, which is very old for cameras. And a lot of the specs of these are going to be pretty dated. However, you can still take some awesome videos and photos with these. But either way, I want to go over a quick spec list of these and kind of go over some of the differences between them as well as the similarities. So to start off, we have the NEX6. This has a 16 megapixel sensor. Like I said, it was released in 2013. This camera can shoot 1080p video at up to 60 frames a second, as well as 16 megapixel raw photos and a photo burst rate of up to 10 pictures a second. The NEX7 was released in 2011. It shoots 1080p video up to 60 frames a second as well. However, this camera has a 24 megapixel sensor, which is 8 megapixels higher than the Sony NEX6. However, this camera can still shoot at up to 10 frames per second burst mode, so even with 50% more megapixels than the NEX6, it can shoot the same burst speed. And so all the specs are pretty similar with these, and even the shape and size of these are almost identical. You can see they're almost the same width, height, weight, everything like that, and they almost have the same button layouts, except for a few pretty major differences in the button layout category. So the first thing to note is the NEX7 has an extra controllable dial. So NEX6 has this rotating wheel on the back to change something like your ISO or your aperture or shutter speed, as well as one up top here kind of combined with the menu dial. And so there's two dials you can use to change either shutter speed, ISO, or aperture. However, that means you can only control two of those with these dials, and to control a third one, like for example the ISO, you have to click one of the buttons and then spin one of the dials and then exit back out of that. However, the NEX7 has a spinnable dial on the back here as well as two up top. So that means you can control the ISO, shutter speed, and aperture all without having to dive into the menu or press any buttons beforehand, which makes this a lot easier to control your exposure triangle, and just makes this a lot faster for changing those simple settings as quickly and easily as possible. However, that means the NEX7 doesn't have this setting dial up top that the NEX6 has, so to change between like auto and manual, exposure and shutter priority and that sort of thing, you have to actually go into the menu. And then another pretty major body difference between these is actually the hot shoe mounts. So the NEX6, you can see it has a normal hot shoe mount. You can put flashes on there, you can put microphones, or really anything that you'd put into a hot shoe mount on the NEX6. So it's pretty standard, pretty normal. However, when you move over to the NEX7, it has this really weird Sony proprietary hot shoe or interface mount, whatever you'd call it, which means this camera does not have a real hot shoe. So if you want to mount like a microphone, like a Rode Video Micro, or a flash on top of this or something like that, you're going to either need a proprietary one that Sony makes for this mount, or you're going to need an adapter to put on top of the camera, which will add height to it, it'll add cost to it, and just a little bit of extra flimsiness on top of the camera in order to use a regular hot shoe accessory. Last but not least, when it comes to actual like body and hardware differences, the NEX7 has a microphone input jack, while the NEX6 does not. Now that's pretty self-explanatory. You can plug in an external microphone, whether it be a lavalier microphone or shotgun microphone or anything in between that uses a 3.5mm microphone jack. However, the NEX6 does not have this at all, so you can't plug any microphones into this. It only has the built-in microphones, which don't sound very good. Besides that, there's really only a few other differences. Of course, megapixels is really the big thing if you don't count the body and physical differences. So the NEX6 is 2 years newer than the NEX7, and that means that this has a faster processor and overall better technology, which allows it to have 99 focus points versus 25 in the NEX7, so about 4 times the amount of focus points, as well as a 25,600 maximum ISO versus 16,000 ISO on the NEX7. Now like I said, they both record pretty much the exact same video, they both have the same photo burst speeds, they both shoot raw photos, almost everything else besides the main differences that I pointed out is going to be the same with these cameras. So like I said, definitely go check out the reviews I made of these cameras if you want to learn a little bit more about them, see some more photo and video examples, as well as the complete specs of these. But if I had to choose between these two cameras right now, I think I would go with the NEX7 just about every single time. Having that microphone input jack really helps out for videos. Higher megapixel sensor is great for photos, for any sort of cropping and just high detail work. It has those extra dials for really controlling your exposure as easily and quickly as possible. And so that basically wraps up this quick comparison video between these. If you want to see any different comparisons between other Sony NEX cameras, definitely let me know in the comments. And I'm also planning on doing a comparison between every single NEX camera, so stay tuned for that and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in that video, as well as videos about other budget camera gear and filmmaking gear. But besides that, that basically wraps this video up. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.